here, Warlock. You promised conquest, Grommash, yet brought these clans to ruin. Your men have died for nothing. My soldiers died with honor. Did they? And what about your son? Garrosh, my son. You have lost everything. There is only one choice. Drink and fulfill your destiny. Your poison would damn us all! Your iron will is legend. I will enjoy breaking you. Who will be the first to accept this gift? Power such as mine for any willing to serve. Kilrogg. You have seen your fate. You know what must be done. Kilrogg! Yes. I will build a new horde. I will forge you into an unstoppable weapon. You will be the scourge of 100 worlds. The might of a legion. To be the first, Hellscream. You were destined to be my greatest champion, and instead, you chose this. You have no vision. Behold, what a true seat of power demands. A citadel of hellish fire worthy of my masters. A monument to entomb the souls of all who would dare to defy us. They will defy you. I have seen their forces in battle. They are fearless. It does not matter what vile creatures you summon to the battle. They will persevere. Their resolve is unbreaking. They will come. They will fight. And they will wash their blades of your blood in victory. Fight if you must, Hellscream. It is no matter. In the end, we all serve the Legion.
So, little different from the Hellfire Citadel back in Outland, isn't it? Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed all that. I chose those because I thought they lead and tie in really well to what we experience in this raid, with both Grom and Kilrogg. So, yeah. And right up there is where Gul'dan did all that from. So, Hellfire Citadel. You know, I've heard some people absolutely hate this raid. I've heard some people are like, and then I've heard, I don't recall hearing anyone love it. I'm one of those, I'm like, it's okay. It's fine for what it is. It's large. If you guys thought Foundry was big, just wait till you see how big this raid is. There's a lot of bosses in this, and there's a lot of ground to cover. See, here's the thing. You remember what I talked about back in the High Mall video about the amount of problems that Warlords had specifically behind the scenes? I feel like a lot of the problems can be very easily epitomized in this raid. This was pretty much the time when the people behind the scenes decided, all right, this we're done with this expansion. Let's just get everyone ready for Legion, since that was now the intended plan, was to now do Legion, and they basically gave up on this expansion. Do you guys know how many things that they actually intended to do and carry through with in this expansion? Do you know we were actually supposed to have 2 other raids in this expansion? We were supposed to have one raid involving the Arakoa, which I'm really sad we didn't get, because I really liked the storyline in Spires of Iraq. I thought the Arakoan storyline in this expansion was very interesting, and I really wished that had come to happen. And we were supposed to get another proper Iron Horde raid. Basically, the raid I mentioned that we were supposed to get in Foundry, but Foundry basically ended up being the Iron Horde raid. But it was supposed to be one basically with, the remaining bulk forces of the Iron Horde, with, of course, Grom being the final boss of the raid, and thus the expansion as well. But then they decided to just give up on this expansion and get stuff ready for Legion. And then this is where some of the other time-traveling Altered Dimension stuff kind of came into play as well. So they threw this raid together at the last minute. They just kind of tossed this together. They had proper amounts of time to work on Blackrock Foundry, and it shows. Many will agree that Blackrock Foundry is a much higher quality raid compared to Hellfire Citadel, and it shows. Whereas this one, they kind of just threw together, because they were trying to just get some stuff out here with this zone and this raid for players to do stuff until they were putting the finishing touches on Legion, though there was still quite a break after this till Legion came out. And then also there was something else, there's a number of things wrong with this. I mentioned the time-traveling alternate dimension thing, because then they decided, we're going to have it where the Burning Legion is able to transcend all dimensions and bring Archimonde back. Yes, the same Archimonde, not an alternate Archimonde. The same Archimonde that we fought in Warcraft 3. Which is weird, considering if they're saying that there's only one Legion and one Archimonde instead of an alternate Archimonde, then why is it there's an alternate Velen in Shadow Moon when we already have a Velen? This is where that whole alternate thing comes into play. And do you guys know that the developers, whenever they were in interviews about this, and people kept asking about, well, what about alternate Azeroth, or alternate this, or alternate that? And the devs kept going, no, don't think about it. No, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Think of this in a bubble. Think of Draenor in a bubble. No, don't think about it. They kept insisting we don't think about the bigger picture and ramifications of an alternate dimension and traveling into the past, and many of us who actually cared, about this. And the developers clearly hadn't thought about any of this through at all. That they were just be like, oh, don't think about it. Just go with what we're doing here. Just go with it. They didn't give it any proper amount of thought. And many of the issues and problems that many of us have, in my opinion, and I know others can agree with this, can be summed up in this raid right here. I mean, look, I love Legion, and I'm really glad how it turned out. So in some ways, there are some things about this I like because it's the Burning Legion. Or rather, this is part Burning Legion, part Fel or / Demon Iron Horde. Since now this is... And this is Tanan Jungle, the zone that was advertised in that zone, or in that trailer. This is now the portion of the Iron Horde that has committed to following Gul'dan, and is now basically either the demonic Iron Horde or the Fel Iron Horde that is following the Legion and Gul'dan. So, yeah. So, basically the whole Iron Horde thing at this point was done, and they were like, alright, let's just do more Legion stuff, building up to Legion, because they really wanted to build up Legion and how awesome it was going to be. One of the reasons I wanted to show the Grom thing was for a couple of the things. One, in that trailer about how Gul'dan talked about his will and how he was going to enjoy breaking it. That's also going to come into play when we find Grom in this raid. And I wanted to show the Kilrogg one especially because of the encounter that we have with him here in this raid. Now, there's a mechanic in this fight for Kilrogg that I believe I'm not going to be able to show you, because if you do that when you solo, I believe it either kills you or it despawns Kilrogg or resets the encounter. So this is one of the downsides of doing these raids by yourself, is you're not going to be able to see all the mechanics, because there's a mechanic in here where Kilrogg will actually allow us to see our own death. And it's an interesting thing that, based on what we know about Legion, is never carried through. And the thing about that mechanic and why that's important, and why showing that short I showed you guys of Lords of War was so important, is because that vision of their death is always supposed to be 100% accurate every single time. That's part of the point of their clan, is when those chieftains see their death, it's always true. And if you saw in that short, it showed him tied up there between the forces of the Alliance and the Horde, because the implication is that we, the players, are his death. Now, it's obviously a little different based on what happens here, but in some ways it's still true when you think about it. But the fact that he, in this fight, will actually let us have an opportunity to see a vision of our own death is, it's a cool idea, but basically it's never carried through, which is kind of a big disappointment when it comes to the whole thing of, if it's supposed to be accurate, why wasn't it accurate this time? And they just kind of cop out and go, oh, it was not a possible future, or it didn't work this time, or whatever. Oh my gosh. Oh, looks like I have some guildmates going through Time Walking Ulduar. There's gonna be some achievement spam, and I guess. So, yeah, I'm trying to make sure I capture or remember everything I wanted to talk about before we did this. Some of the things I want to talk about are inside the raid, but yeah, a number of the problems and issues for this expansion that many of us have issues with, including myself, are mainly epitomized in this raid. So let's head on inside. And here's hoping this is going to be the time. I've only done 22 attempts, but hopefully this, I keep hoping to get an actual, rare drop on camera. Just have that luck of, well, we did it on camera, there it is, it dropped. Hasn't happened yet, not really. The Nightshade mount from Karazhan sort of doesn't count. Alright. We are here. Inside. So, it's important to note, they actually have nerfed this first encounter because of the way it works. Because it used to take a long time, especially on Mythic, but they basically nerfed it.
Our enemies march upon the foot of this mighty citadel. Be on guard.
I just realized my pet is now. Get out here. Because it used to be this encounter would take a long time and it would require a lot. I'm just tagging stuff at the moment.
I need to get closer.
It used to be people felt like they had to bring someone else along.
Range.
Just for this first encounter. Because soloing this first encounter was a big annoyance. Until Blizzard was like, you know what? Let's nerf this. Let's make... Because we can see a lot of people are trying to solo this. And it's a big pain to solo by yourself. So let's try and fix that.
Ready to go.
Attack! It's too far away.
So we have forces moving over to these cannons here. I'll go over the guide stuff about the first fight in just a bit.
I don't have a target.
By the way, this, you know, this raid and finding which character to do this video on was the reason why it took so long for me to get ready to do this video. It wasn't until I tried it with my hunter that I went, this is the guy I need to do this video on. Because having these guys and being able to, you know, manage my pets in a way is how I'm going to get through this. Without it being a big annoyance, because there's a few bosses in here that can be annoying to deal with when you are by yourself. So, the first boss, by the way, this is Sledge Master Martak. The first boss is Hellfire Assault. It's an interesting encounter. With the aid of the mercenary Black Fuse Company, the Iron Horde constructed devastating siege weaponry in the shadow of Hellfire Citadel to be used in the eventual assault upon Azeroth's capitals. With the tanks now retrofitted to use Fel energy, Siege Master Martak awaits Gul'dan's command to begin the assault. Yeah, that's something to remember, is that part of the reason why the Iron Horde was such a technologically advanced, dangerous threat is because they took what Black Fuse, just to remind you guys remember what happened back in Pandaria, right? In Siege of Orgrimmar? This guy, right here, Siege Crafter Black Fuse. This guy was a genius. And this guy was one of the huge reasons why not only the Horde then had such technology with the Iron Sword, which was a technological masterpiece when it comes to how advanced it was, but Garrosh brought this guy's technology with the Iron Star here to Draenor, and that's what they basically used the tech from that to expand it to the rest of their army, and thus the Iron Horde became this incredible force. And that's still continuing here. And you will see that with the next boss that we do in this raid. But yeah, he was a goblin, but he was a genius. And it shows not just in Siege, but in this expansion, in this raid, because of all the stuff the Iron Horde and also this version of the Fel Iron Horde uses as well. And you'll be seeing that with the next boss, but we'll get there. So we're not exactly just fighting Martak here, and you'll see in just a bit.
So, you wish to test the might of the Fel Horde?
Running
Come,
Howling
warriors,
Axe,
I'll be
Shockwave.
back.
So this is how this encounter works. They're going to be sending forces, like launching them, and they're going to be trying to attack these cannons, because we have these cannons now turned around to face that gate that we have to get through, but we have to load it with ammunition. In order to actually load it with ammunition, we have to wait for those tanks over there to come out, destroy them, and then load the stuff that's powering them into the cannons to, you know, shoot the gate. It used to take a lot of shots and a long time. Blizzard basically nerfed it to just a few shots if you were at least level 104 or higher, because at that point the game knew that you were just simply trying to solo it, and it was like, okay. Now you have to have, keep your eye on what's going on, because, well, these cannons have health bars, and if you ignore these guys, they will just continue to attack until they have destroyed the cannon. So you destroy that cannon, this tank here, you pick this up, and then you run over here and load the cannon with the ammunition. You see you get a speed boost with the munitions, so it's not entirely like, oh gosh. So this is another reason I'm glad I'm my hunter, so I can have the aspect of the cheetah stuff here. So you have to try and make sure that you get this stuff, and that you prevent them from destroying the cannons, because if they destroy the cannons, well, it's pretty much a wipe. So you can see this cannon's destroying that. These guys are attacking the cannon. I gotta get back here.
Siege Nova.
Be like, hey. See, I also would love to try and make sure I get my pets on these guys so they can wreck them while I collect the ammunition here.
Tower.
So like I said, you can see the health bars like already half full. They basically made it where you need just a few shots, but it used to take a lot of shots. So this should hopefully do it. Right here, this last one. If not, there's one more right there.
Nova.
But there are lots of people that think that they never changed this, but they actually did. And this should do it. Ouch. I got stunned.
Do it yourself!
So watch what she does here.
The might and invention of the Fell Horde! The fury of Hellfire itself! Behold!
Hey, I finished the set. Yes, this is the Hunter set for this raid, the Mythic set. Boy, this just looks Hunter, doesn't it? You can just tell how Hunter this set looks, doesn't it? Yeah. It's part of my... I've always criticized the sets the Hunter has. So, do you guys remember those Fell Reavers back in Outland? Yeah, now, just think of those, but now think of this as being one of those on steroids. This is an Iron Reaver. The schematics for the Iron Reaver were found in the workshop of Blackfuse himself after the fall of Orgrimmar. Drawing inspiration from the mighty constructs of the Legion and designed to be the nefarious goblin's masterwork, the project was completed after his death and represents the pinnacle of the Iron Horde's military might. This is a Fell Reaver that has been modified by Blackfuse, integrating Legion tech, as well as his own tech from the Iron Star. This is a insanely advanced mech. This is probably as strong of a mech as we have seen, not counting the Warbreaker from Antorus the Burning Throne. But before Legion came out, this was like the pinnacle of these Reaver mechs. Look at that thing! And by the way, that is the mount that you can get from Archimonde in this raid. Just to compare. You see right there? Yeah, it's basically the same thing. So, hopefully that drops for me in this video. So yeah, this is, yeah. Yeah, lots of stuff. Immolation, Artillery, Unstoppable Orbs, Barrage. Yeah. Mythic only does Firebomb. Yeah. The thing is, I can't really show off a lot of the mechanics of these fights because some of these can still really hurt. Like I said, even soloing Mythic Warlords raids at this point is not a cakewalk. It's still a little rough, especially if you are on characters that are not very well geared. There's also, and that's another reason I took time before doing this, because I want to gear up this guy so that he could be able to survive this a little better compared to some of the other times.
I warned you!
4, 3, 2,
4, 3,
Entire bomb.
2,
The
clock is ticking!
There's runaway.
Yeah.
Burn, burn, burn! Eject, eject!
The citadel is breached! Gul'dan is within! I will establish a foothold here. Press forward!
And yeah, so there's Khadgar and the Kirin Tor. They are basically setting up portals and such to help establish what's going on here. Because basically, if we die at a boss, we just res there. He's also going to try and set up some portals for us to get to certain places in the raid as checkpoints. Also, he is the one you get the quest from if you want to get the skip, if you want to farm the mount here. So, of course, I'm going to try and, actually do this with this character, since now I feel like the Hunter is one of the best ones you can actually solo this raid with at this point. The mythic one, anyway. So, you gotta collect all of those, and then he will set up portals, including one that you can use to just go straight to Archimonde. Now, I mentioned there's a few bosses in here that can be tricky and difficult to solo, and I'll go over that when we get there. And I'm really hoping I don't encounter that many issues and problems this time around. I've had issues in the past trying to do this. Let's just say I took quite a bit of preparation and practice to try and get through this. Also, notice the amount of different forms of orcs that we are facing here. This is really where we see the difference between the forces of the Iron Horde and the forces of the Burning Legion. It kind of is a more current, modern version of what we were dealing with back in Outland with the Fel orcs. You remember those? Yeah.
I don't have a target.
And there's still a bunch of, these are iron peons. Various different peons that are still working that were part of Grom's forces, but are now basically aiding Gul'dan. So. Yeah, that can hurt. So this area is a tad bit confusing. These are the pits of Mannoroth. Now what I like about this is that these three areas are basically representing the three different specs of the Warlock. Demo, Destruction, Affliction, and yet we face a Magneron. We don't face a Warlock boss. We face a Magneron. We just faced one back in Foundry, and yet we're facing another one here. So, just to reiterate this, as I showed you guys, we faced this guy, Kormrok, a Magneron, and now here we face Kormrok. He's a Magneron. He also looks like a Gron, almost like a cross, which that's a horrifying implication if you think about it. A cross between a Magneron and a Gron. Like imagine, Kormrok crossed with Gruul. Oof, that's scary. But one of my points is that when you think about it, shouldn't there be a Warlock boss in this area? Look at this. We have the three different specs for Warlock represented here. So why are we not facing a Warlock type of boss, which fits perfectly with the Legion and Gul'dan? That's like trying to pull the power of each spec during the fight. And then, in the last phase, he tries to use all three, and it becomes powerful, but also overwhelming him, and, truly showing that, how strong Warlocks can be if they just go all out, even though they're basically killing themselves in the process. But no, we're gonna face a Magneron. Okay. Yeah. Oh, hey, someone in my guild got the Fangs of the Father. Congrats.
Destroy.
So also, I should say that some of the sets here in Hellfire Citadel I do like. Like, the one for the Warlock is amazing. The one for the Death Knight is also really cool. And then there's the one for the Monk, which, in my opinion, is kind of pathetic. But that's just me. I mean, there are some that I think are really cool. You know, like, you know, because instead of a Iron Horde aesthetic theme to the sets, it's a Burning Legion type of theme to the sets, which is an aspect that, or an aesthetic that I think is always really cool. You know, with the amount of fel that's going on here. I mean, look at this, all this liquefied form of the fel. It's like, wow. I just realized I completely forgot to read the stuff on Kormrok. As ancient as Draenor itself, Kormrok once ruled Gorgrond, the creatures of the island slinking away from the giant Magnaron's destructive fury. But then the Iron Horde came, trapping the behemoth and attempting to break his will. They were entirely unsuccessful. That is, until the rise of Gul'dan and the fell power that Kormrok could not resist. So this next boss is going to have a callback to Black Temple. Because, of course, Draenor can't help but have lots of callbacks to Outland and Burning Crusade, right? I mean, with the amount of similarities, you know, with the fact that, you know, hey, Draenor and Outland, it's the same thing. So yeah, those assassins are not fun when they're constantly stunning you like that. It's almost like a callback to how horrible it was to deal with rogues in vanilla, right? My goodness. I got some guildmates that are working on those achievements tonight. So, this is the Hellfire High Council. Thousands of Iron Horde orcs accepted the blood of Mannoroth, but few grew as powerful as these three champions. Dia Darkwhisper, master of void magic, and an outcast of the Shadow Moon. Yeah, basically the only member of the Shadow Moon clan being part of the Iron Horde, since really what Ner'zhul and the rest of the Shadow Moon was not really coinciding with the Iron Horde and all that, but anyways. That's all the questing and storyline stuff on the Alliance side, which, you know, but anyways. Because I'm saying that because you wouldn't know that if you were Horde, because we never quest in that area, except outside of the Garrison campaign stuff. Gurtog, with his insatiable rose quickly to power as the left hand of Gul'dan. Gurtog, with his insatiable hunger for blood, emerged the victor in hundreds of trials by combat. He has met his match only once, fighting Blademaster Jubathos to a draw. Tainted with fell sickness, they serve Gul'dan as both High Guard and Council of War. So yeah, that's Darkwhisper. That's the Warlock set I was referring to. Look at that! Oh, that's so cool. The only part I don't have is the boots, because they're a world drop from the trash, and I hate that. But I'll have to just come through here on my Warlock by himself, you know, to try and get that. But man, that looks so cool. Yeah, that's Blademaster Jubathos. Yep. And then this is Gurtog Bloodboil. You remember him, right? Let's take a look back. There he is, Gurtog Bloodboil. Yeah. You see what I mean about how they basically tried to take some things from Burning Crusade and make them a more modern-looking version of them? Yeah. Yep. So, anyways, just wanted to point that out.
Gurtog,
Dispatch our enemies.
Yes, darkness burns within
Give
me.
the sweet mercy.
I am ever burning.
Like I said, it's really hard for me to show off the mechanics of these fights because they can either, still really hurt, they can reset the encounter, or, there's a number of problems that come into play. So I kind of have to go through some of these really quickly.
I don't have a target.
So now we're heading towards Kilrogg.
Attack blood throw stage.
Look at that. He turned into a hulking terror. Yeah.
It's too far away. I'm out of range.
Attack blood throw stage.
Yeah.
Attack blood throw stage. Attack blood throw stage.
Why do you resist your own blood, Ariok? Give in to your rage. Release me from these bonds, and I will show you my rage, Kilrogg! The choice is simple, Ariok. Submit or die. Friends of yours, Ariok? No, wait. You look familiar.
Yep. Kilrogg Deadeye, warlord of the Bleeding Hollow, seized control of his clan after performing a ritual to learn of his death. With this knowledge, he led his clan fearlessly on countless campaigns, marching toward the glorious end he desires. Now, with demon blood coursing through his veins, Kilrogg awaits you in Hellfire Citadel, awaiting the moment of his death or yours. You caught that right. Wait, you look familiar. Because he recognizes us. Because he saw us in that vision of his own death. Yeah. Now, as I said, there's a mechanic in this fight where you can actually go into an area and he'll actually let you see a vision of your own death. And from what I saw, it's like one version I saw was Khadgar with you in a burning Undercity, Hellfire Undercity. The implication was that you were there in Undercity, about to die with Khadgar, while the Legion was burning everything down. And from what I recall, they basically just gave up on that. But then again, there's a lot of things in this expansion that they just gave up on, so. This is another fight it's hard to show the mechanics of because he has a mind control mechanic. Basically, if he keeps hitting you long enough, he continues to infect you with Fel. Eventually, you get mind controlled by the Fel, and when you're here by yourself, it resets the encounter. Or it just outright kills you and you have to run all the way back here. If you had other people, it could keep going. By the way, you remember Ariok, right? He was back in the opening and has been captured and has basically been trying to get forced to serve the Legion, being mutated into that. So, fun fact, when you beat this encounter, you get him as a follower at your garrison. And he's pretty strong, obviously. And it's pretty cool to be able to rescue him and get him to join you as a result from doing stuff like this.
I've been waiting for this day! Come, brothers! Seize your destiny!
Defensive.
This is the death I saw.
That's the same thing his father said.
I am in your debt, heroes. My strength is yours.
I don't know why that was so soft. Is it because I'm far away from him? He's like, what I said was... But yep, this is the death I saw. Now, considering that we are actually able in this game to die, and then just come back because the Valkyr just keep bringing us back and let us run back to our corpse, we know in gameplay, it's not hard for me to think that they could have actually worked this into the story of Legion to really make the whole vision of our death from Kilrogg actually become true, to keep that whole continuity thing of their visions of their death being 100% accurate every time. But they gave up so hard on this expansion, it's sad. It's so sad the amount of things that they just abandoned or gave up on in regards to this expansion.
You heard the master! These trespassers have caused enough trouble!
I need it.
Oh, this next boss. So this next boss has caused a number of problems in the past, especially when it comes to soloing. This boss basically made it where you were required to bring somebody else and have either both of them be a tank spec or have one of them come down here and one of them stand outside, because otherwise it would completely bug and reset the encounter. I'm referring to Gorefiend. Now, just to kind of help play this up, the one I'm referring to is this guy. This is Tyrant Gore. Yeah. Working alongside the Sargerai, Gul'dan's agent, Tyrant Gore, plots to feast upon the bounty of souls contained within the barriers of the holy mausoleum of Akundun. Now, he's called now, well, you guys remember someone back in Black Temple named Tyrant Gorefiend, right? Tyrant Gore, Gorefiend. Yeah. So now this is Gorefiend. Falling into the heart of the mausoleum, Akundun, the Shadow Council Lieutenant Tyrant Gore gorged upon hundreds of Draenei souls, becoming a bloated abomination in the process. More than just an orc now, Tyrant Gore gave up his old name and has taken a new one. Gorefiend. You'll see him in just a moment. Ugh! What is that thing in the water? Oh, that looks disgusting. I wonder what that could be. Whee! Oh, I really hope this doesn't bug. I really hope it doesn't.
Finally, one with the master.
Did you notice their souls just went to that thing?
I have feasted upon 1,000 souls. Yours will be next.
That was this. This was Tyrant Gore. And now he's this. Obviously not quite the same as the Gorefiend that we encounter in Shadow Moon Valley back in Burning Crusade. But yeah. So, if you're probably wondering, why is it that this encounter can bug, as you say? Well, that's because he has a mechanic that involves actually eating the tanks. No, really. Let me see if I can, yeah. If I can show what it is here. Not slain outright. Instead, Gorefiend devours their souls, placing them in his stomach where they will be digested. Players have recently been consumed. So I'm trying to see which one it is that's specifically about... Because it's mainly meant for the tanks. And the reason I know that is because that's how this encounter used to bug in the past. Now, I believe when they nerfed Hellfire Assault, they fixed this. But there are times it still can bug, so fingers crossed.
Each death has given me untold power. Now, I unleash it upon you.
Alright, so it looks like we're going to be fine, I think. Okay, so that confirmed to me that,
We must press on. A portal lies within these ruins that will take us further into the Citadel. The portal is ready, champions. Steel yourselves. I know not what further atrocities Gul'dan has unleashed in this place.
Oh, just wait, Khadgar. Just wait. But yeah, so it usually happens pretty quick into the fight, which is why I was kind of trying to burst him down pretty fast. So, up we go. But usually, let's say if you're here with someone else and they're a tank spec, but you're not, the encounter will bug. But if you're here by yourself and you're not a tank spec, it should be fine.
A second portal is nearby. Keep his demons at bay while I break the seals and attune the portal to his location.
So yeah, we have to go around and take care of bosses for Khadgar to strengthen the portal here, so... let's see. Let's go ahead and go this way first. That's kind of... yeah, there are some mini bosses in here. You can see this guy with these Fell Hunters, yeah. Or Fell Scorchers, excuse me. This guy's even named Mechbrush.
I don't have a target.
Alright. So many people will immediately just turn that way and head in that direction. And I'm like, guys, why don't we just go this way, take care of this now? Because you'll have to turn around and come back this way anyway. Because there really aren't any skippable bosses in here. Pretty much every boss is mandatory. Like, because that way also, if you haven't done this boss yet, you can immediately go and do this boss. But the way I like to do is I like to come through here, deal with this boss, then go through here, because then you have to run back this way anyway. So you may as well just be able to go here, take care of this boss, and then go here, and then go this way to the other section, which I will show off later. Now, this is an interesting boss right here. This is a creature that is using both Fel and Void. And that is kind of horrifying. Now, keep in mind, this was back before the idea of Void Elves was added. Because, for goodness sakes, my Void Elf is a Warlock. Because I thought the idea of wielding both the power and of the Fel and the Void would be amazing. And this is part of the reason why. This guy right here. This is Zul... No, I'm kidding. This is Zul-Horak, summoned by Gul'dan from the depths of the twisting nether. Zul-Horak's is one of the most powerful of the Void Revenants, a race of parasitic void beings that tear holes through the planes of reality, consuming and absorbing the energies of beings within. Gul'dan has twisted Zul-Horak, feeding him overwhelming Fel energy, and using his powers to tear open the portals through which he plans to rally the forces of the Burning Legion.
I have
Phase
these
change.
gaps in reality. Legion! Destroy!
Phase change.
Will be swallowed.
3,
No
2,
life shall
1.
remain.
Phase change.
Servants of the void! Swallow the two!
Run out. Run away.
3, 2, 1.
Run away. Run away.
4, 3,
Run out.
2, 1.
Run away.
I dare yes! Yes, I see it! I can see the end!
I've reached the first seal. Soon the portal will take us to Gul'dan.
So, yeah, that guy was extremely unstable because, well, he was trying to utilize both the Fel and the Void, which they're not really supposed to go together. Now, if you're wondering, well, then how come we can make Void Elf Warlocks? I would like to imagine that our Void Elves are especially if they're Warlocks, kind of similar to our Warlock characters in general anyway, are being extremely careful and holding back a lot when it comes to managing both the powers of the Void and the Fel. But it's that idea, that concept that I just found very appealing. Seeing that guy makes me want to go hop on my Void Elf Warlock and continue to level her up. Because she's sitting at like level 40. So we see more forces of, we see one of these guys just kind of hanging out in here. Hi. He's just kind of hanging out here. With some other Draenei, and some orcs from the Blackrock clan, or... I mean, those look kind of like... At least I think that's the Blackrock logo. So here's another reason I wanted to show the Grommash. This place is even called Grommash's Torment. Because, well, there's Grom, tied up to a tree, just like in the Lords of War short that you guys saw. Which, while being taunted by an ogre who was voiced by the same guy who voiced Zeratul from StarCraft, which was great. StarCraft 2, I should clarify.
Still holding out hope, Hellscream. Your precious horde will serve the Legion. We will never be slaves.
This is Fel Lord Zakuun, who has an awesome voice, by the way. Speculated by some scholars of the Legion to be an evolved version of the common Felguard, Fel Lords serve as enforcers in the direct service of Archimonde. Their cruelty is matched only by their brute force. Zakuun was set to a task that called upon both of these traits in equal measure, breaking the iron will of a stubborn and defiant orc chieftain of the Warsong clan. Hi, Grom. Alright, I'll comment on this after this fight.
We will reap your souls. Behold
Rumbling
the
fissures.
power of the Legion. See how they struggle. Not even their combined might will be enough to save you. No.
Enraged.
We are unstoppable. And I may drive that cursed axe down his throat and cut out his fell heart. Best.
Another seal is open. Oh, I am good.
My thanks to you. Now, leave me. I have a trophy to carve.
So yeah, you can actually get his axe, Hellrender, which is awesome. And yeah, Grom is like, hey, now I have a trophy to carve. And he just starts hacking away at him to... Because, just to remind you, what he said during that fight as we were fighting him was, I will have your skull for my helm when I next face your foul legion. Finish him that I may drive that cursed axe down his throat and cut out his fell heart. And that's pretty much what he's doing now. By the way, that's Grom Hellscream's redemption. I hope you guys didn't miss it, because if you blinked your eye, you probably did. Yeah. The fact that they were basically, at this point, trying to redeem Grom is kind of stupid. Because this is not our Grom. And this Grom, in Warlords, he was terrible. He did some awful, horrible things. Some stuff I would just say are outright evil. And then it's like, oh, now he's on our side. What? No! No, he does not deserve that. Not in the slightest. He didn't earn that. And whether or not he even deserves a shot at that is a whole nother topic.
Too late.
So these are some members of the Arakoa that joined the Legion. I mean, not necessarily, I mean by race, not necessarily by the faction we quest with. After Hiskar's efforts to resurrect Tarok and return to power ended in frustration, he was approached by Gul'dan with an offer and a promise to break the ancient curse of Seth. No longer flightless, elevated from the shadows, yet still a master of illusion and deception, Iskar's hour of vengeance is at hand. And that is the Eye of Anzu that we can use to be able to prevent ourselves from getting knocked off.
The shadows will envelop you!
Fell Conduit.
Beware! His true power!
I have Anzu on you. Focused Blast.
Run
Fell
out.
Incineration.
Run
Fell
away.
Incineration. Fell
Interrupt.
Conduit.
Run
Fell
away.
Incineration.
I cannot protect you!
4, 3, 2, 1.
Focused
Target
Blast.
you. Run
Fell
out.
Incineration.
Run
Fell
away.
Incineration. Fell Incineration.
Run away.
Fell Incineration.
Run away.
Focused Blast.
5, 4, 3,
Run
Fell
out.
Incineration.
2,
Run
Fell
away.
Incineration. Fell Incineration.
Run away.
think you have won. You know nothing!
Lots of mail.
The portal is nearly complete. The next seal has been removed.
I like earlier when Khadgar was like, "Who I am good." Right, so now we continue to the next area. The Sargerai.
I'm out of range. I don't have a target.
Alright, so this next boss, I have something to say about.
They come for me! Stop them! Just a bit longer, and the binding will be complete!
I hope you recognize that voice. And because of that, it's because there's something I want to point out as well. That is Socrethar, the Eternal. The greatest warriors of the Draenei have their souls imbued into gleaming constructs, serving as eternal vigilance in defense of their people, kind of like dragoons from StarCraft with the Protoss. Originally a member of the Council of Exarchs before his descent into darkness, Socrethar has perverted this holiest of rituals and used a warped fell construct to preserve his soul after his defeat in Talador. So, you guys recognize that voice, right? That is Darren DePaul. That is the same, or in other words, that is Reinhardt from Overwatch. Yes, that is the same man who voices Reinhardt in Overwatch. I also forgot to point out that he was the one who was voicing Blackhand. Or did I? I think I did. Did I? I don't remember. But he also voiced Blackhand back in Blackrock Foundry. But there is something I know I forgot to mention. I want to bring that up for two reasons. One, because apparently a lot of people... This was back when Darren DePaul was not a household name. Not many people really knew who Darren DePaul was. It wasn't until Overwatch came out and people figured out who the voice of Reinhardt was that people then were like, oh, Darren DePaul's amazing, Reinhardt's awesome. But what I find hilarious about that is that this is basically the exact same type of voice he's doing for this character that he did for Reinhardt, and yet a lot of people hated it. A lot of people apparently hated this voice. They thought he was a terrible voice actor because they thought he was way too over the top. And I find it hysterical because he then basically did the exact same voice for Reinhardt, and yet people loved it. And I think what was really going on is people just wanted to hate everything about Warlords. Because how is it you can listen to the same voice and hate it here, but then love it when he does Reinhardt in Overwatch? And I think people just wanted to hate everything about Warlords of Draenor. Because once Reinhardt became known, Darren DePaul became a household name. He started getting more work, deservedly so. I think he's an excellent voice actor, because then he has gotten more roles and he has had more opportunities to do more things in. He played J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man PS4 game. He played the Warlock in XCOM 2, War of the Chosen. And do you know why I know some of these things? It's because I actually met this man. A few years ago at BlizzCon, when Jeff Kaplan had him come out on stage to reveal the Reinhardt animated short about Reinhardt's past, I was in the Overwatch arena watching that with the crowd. And as I was exiting, there he was in the tunnel. And I went to him and I went to say hi, told him I was a big fan of his work. I shook his hand. I listed off some of the characters that I absolutely loved. I mentioned the Warlock from XCOM 2, and his face lit up. He was such a nice man. He's a wonderful man. Such a great person to meet. And his face lit up, and he said, "Oh, that role was so much fun. I had a blast doing that." And I love that memory of seeing his face light up just talking about how much fun he had performing that other role. And it's understandable why. If you guys haven't played XCOM 2 War of the Chosen, you gotta play that just to hear his performance as the Warlock, because he was awesome in that game. It's one of the reasons I still love XCOM 2. But it's just, I want you to pay attention to how he does the lines for this character here, because it's basically the exact same voice he does for Reinhardt.
Fight, you fools! Stop them! It's too far away. I should have expected as much. No matter. The construct is fully powered. The final binding will have to wait. For now, I believe we have a score to settle. Fleas! You killed me once, mortals. It will not happen again! No! The binding! I cannot control! My soul itself another! It consumes me! Sargere! To me!
The final scene.
Mortal!
My work here is almost finished.
I'm sorry, that's the same voice for Reinhardt, and I love it. Nice to meet you, my friends. I've been told I have a pretty decent Reinhardt voice. So this this next boss. But we'll get to that in a second. First, we have to get through this interesting room with these portals that you got to make sure that you have nothing attacking you, which is why I have the pets out to be able to help them kind of defend me while I close down these portals in order to get to the next room. And then the trash in the following room can instantly kill you. No, seriously. It's, yeah, unless you have something that's ready to heal you, you'll die. No matter how high your gear is, no matter what your level is, if you are max level 470, I don't care. It will kill you. The best way I can, been able to kind of come up with an idea of how to deal with some of the trash is to be able to have pets out to help them take the brunt of what happens. Have heals immediately ready to go the moment you're hit with the instant death thing, or have something like Soulstone or Reincarnation set up ready to revive yourself at that spot when you do die. There we go. So that has this guy fall. You kill him, and that opens up this doorway.
I need a target.
Okay. Faithbreakers. Eridar. Go. Just go. These guys have a mechanic that I'm telling you can basically put a dot that just reduces your health to 1 and then you die. I'm not kidding. In the slightest.
I don't have a target. I need a target.
Ah! No! Get away!
I don't have a target.
And it kind of has to do with the next boss. I hate this boss. I hate this next boss so much. Tyrant Velhari. When Gul'dan brought his gift to the Sargerai, Velhari had already made her ambitions clear, and risen through the ranks with brutal ferocity. Known to her enemies as the Tyrant, Velhari was one of the first to accept the Fell Touch, further enhancing her combat prowess. Velhari now bears a mockery of the holy symbol of the Naru, signifying her conviction to the New Order. She is basically... How do I put this? Think a paladin, except instead of using the power of the light, she uses the power of the Fell. Just like a reskin of a paladin, but instead of using the light, using the Fell. It's basically the best way I can describe the way she works. And I gotta say, that idea is actually kind of cool. So, why do I hate this boss? She has a mechanic that... this is why you can compare her to a paladin. She has things like auras that reduce your health. So she has Aura of Contempt. Emits a cursed era, which causes players to be unable to be healed above 80% of their health, and it increases over time. She also has Aura of Malice, causing players to inflict 20% additional damage and suffer 10% additional damage. It increases over time. Each aura persists, but decreases in strength when the corresponding phase ends. Yeah. So she reduces your maximum health, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller. Oh, and you can't get healed higher than that. So your healers can't really save you from this stuff. Yeah. This is a nightmare to deal with when you're trying to solo this, because you just keep losing your health and you can't heal yourself. It's horrible. I'm going to try and burst her down as fast as I can.
The Eredar are no strangers to war. Are you so eager to meet your end? Enforcer, they're now getting so very frail and
Phase 2.
Enough! This is where you die!
Phase 3.
The
Big ad.
Sovereign watches! Tragedy!
The portal is unlocked. It will take us directly to Gul'dan. Now he will pay for his crimes.
It's the only boss I spit on in this raid. Oh my gosh, I hate that boss. Doing this on the hunter is like, okay, my pets can kind of like tank that for me, though my pets here are not doing that great in terms of doing that. They didn't really do a good job that time because she's still focused on me. But doing that on other classes is a nightmare. Unless you have a lot of gear, then you can just basically, like, you know, kill her in a few shots. The longer that fight goes on, yeah, the more health you just keep losing. It's bad. This is why I made the decision that when I was going to do this video, that it was going to be my hunter, and I was going to try and gear him up and get him better. I took the time to make sure I got my heart up to, you know, doing the Nashtar thing and getting the cloak from Rathian, just to be able to get him up to a decent item level for this video. So Khadgar has opened up the portal. He said it'll take us directly to Gul'dan at the top. However, we're not going to be fighting Gul'dan in this raid, even though it's been building up that way. Ooh. Well, now that looks a little gross. I wonder what that is. Just to give it away, it's Mannoroth. Those are the bones of Mannoroth. He's about to be brought back and fight us. Bloodthirsty and brutal, Mannoroth was Archimonde's most feared enforcer, until he was felled by a mighty blow from Grommash's blade. Even in death, his blood was used by Gul'dan to fuel a dark bargain with the Iron Horde and their allies. Gul'dan and his minions now seek to reanimate the shattered remains of Mannoroth, that he may continue to serve the Legion. Ooh, I am so sorry. I hit my mic by mistake. So, that's the Shadow Council set, by the way. I love that set on my Warlock. So these three are summoners. Now, on lower difficulties, you have to pretty much fight them. But on Mythic, you just hit one of them, and they immediately die and summon Mannoroth. Yeah, see?
The Master
Phase 2.
comes. This is your purpose, summoners. Mannoroth will be whole again. What is this?
Target you.
Gul'dan.
Watch your step.
Have you done? I am so weak. Fear not, Mannoroth.
Phase 3.
Curse of the
The
Legion.
fell gift empowers you. Make them suffer.
Move to scope.
4, 3,
Mark
2,
of Doom.
1.
My power returns. I am unleashed. 4, 3,
Phase
strong.
4.
Gul'dan, do something! Let the power flow through you. You are the destructor, the flayer of flesh.
Watch your step.
The Legion will find you. No matter. The Legion will burn this world, as it has countless others.
Nice, I didn't have that.
Gul'dan has fled to the Dark Portal. Quickly, champions. He has no place left to run. We will finish this. And save me his skull. For reasons.
Oh, Khadgar. You silly goose, you. Cutscene. So yeah, Archimonde's back.
You have foolishly rushed to your end. The Black Gate is whole. Behold, the might of the Legion!
Tremble, mortals, and despair. Doom has come to this world. Gul'dan, ready the Black Gate for my invasion. These vermin will not delay me. The last light will fall by my hand.
Yes, Master.
My coming heralds the end of your pathetic world, insects. Your meager forces shall be the first of many to be consumed by the Burning Legion.
Yeah. This is one of the stupidest things they've done. This makes no sense whatsoever. The fact that Archimonde is here, and that this is not an alternate Archimonde. This is the same Archimonde from Warcraft 3. Our Archimonde, from our timeline in our dimension. And yet somehow he's here. Also, Asgalor, and Theron, and Khazragal, the same guys from Mount Hyjal as well. They're basically just like, hey, all the stuff from Warcraft 3 and Burning Crusade, see? Here. Isn't this nostalgic? Isn't this a great callback? They threw this together at the last minute so obviously, it's painful. Also, Yrel's here. And Grom. We have Khadgar, Yrel, and Grom here because apparently Grom is completely redeemed now at this point. Yrel should be turning around and whacking Grom in the skull with her mace right now. Also, I like that it shows that Khadgar's still part of the Sons of Lothar. That's, of course, his guild. Anyways. Archimonde, one of the original Eredar who betrayed the Draenei of Argus to take his place as the sinister hand of the Dark Titan Sargeras. Archimonde the Defiler commands the military might of the Burning Legion. He arrives in Draenor, reaching across space and time to ensure that the invasion of Azeroth proceeds as planned, and that Gul'dan does not fail his Legion masters. So I will say, Archimonde does drop some cool stuff. Obviously, I mentioned the mount. He also drops this sword. It's Calamity's Edge, but it's a green fell one compared to the one from BC, which is awesome. He also drops this staff, Edict of Argus. He drops his own gavel. It's a mace. He drops a couple of his, the pieces he's wearing, which are cloth, because, remember, Archimonde is a mage/warlock. He's a cloth spellcaster, I guess you could say. So he's got that headpiece there, his Ascendant Crown. He drops the Paladin shoulders. He drops his own unique shoulders, which are cloth. So if you have a... So I would, use these. I have them. If I use them, it would be on a Draenei, who is, a cloth wearer. So it would be either on a Draenei priest, a Draenei mage, or a Draenei warlock. Oh, wait, no, Draeneis can't be warlocks. Okay, so more than likely I would make a Draenei priest, and then that priest would wear these. Because, it just makes sense to me. So he also drops that belt that he's wearing. The Demon Buckle Sash of Argus. So, it's some cool, unique stuff that he does drop that you can only get from him. So, but of course, what I would really love to see drop is that mount. Wish me luck, guys. This is attempt number 23 on Felsteel Annihilator. Now, the thing about this fight that is a little difficult is when you get to the extra phase. So, after you clear them, these three guys, you'll then be fighting Archimonde here. But in Mythic, there is an extra phase. He takes you to the Twisting Nether. He begins to cast Nether Banish, sending players to the Twisting Nether. Again, this is Mythic only that he does this. And this has led to many of us wonder, because he takes us to the Twisting Nether with him when we kill him, the implication is that, well, we killed him in the Twisting Nether, so he's gone for good, right? But then in the cutscene that will play after we beat him, he's back here at the Black Gate. Because it's the implication that it's the cutscene you would have first seen beating him here on normal, here at the Black Gate. So they've never come out and definitively say whether or not we have permanently killed Archimonde in the Twisting Nether. Because Blizzard at this point has apparently taken the Bethesda approach of, when it comes to continuity and their lore and all that stuff. Maybe, sort of, possibly, could be, we're not going to say for sure. They want to leave everything open-ended, not be definitive or conclusive about anything, and it's frustrating, is what I'm getting at. That we don't know, one way or the other, definitively, if Archimonde is gone for good.
I don't have a target.
And I say that being someone who hated that he came back as the final boss of this expansion. Because we killed him in Warcraft 3, he's supposed to be dead. He should have stayed dead. The fact that he's here as the final boss in Warlords is a joke. Because it's just, okay, Archimonde's here now. Because again, this also goes back to that whole time-traveling altered dimension nonsense that is part of this expansion. Because of the whole, all the flaws and the problems that come up with that. Especially when they say this is not an alternate Archimonde. This is the same Archimonde. Huh? Okay.
Let the
Here we go.
echoes of doom resound across this wretched, meaningless little world. Look upon the endless I am the Defiler, Lord of the Burning Legion.
Square 3.
This world will feel my wrath and burn.
Protect us from
Watch your
this
step.
atrocity. Grant us your strength to banish this evil.
Unbreakable. For Draenor! Gul'dan!
You don't think it's over?
Gul'dan and the devils that command him are not so easily banished. I fear this is only beginning.
If you ever need us, we will be here.
Forcibly turning and converting people to the Naru and the light as zealots. No, seriously, she becomes a villain while we're gone.
In the light, we are one. The future is ours, and we will see Draenor rebuilt. Together.
I showed you guys that quest, remember? To unlock the Mag'har Orcs, Yrel becomes a villain, forcibly converting unwilling participants to become light-forged zealots. Okay, here we go, guys. Nope. I can already tell because it already would have popped up here showing you've earned it after 23 attempts. It would have said that up here. It would have shown the amount here. Yeah, no. Oh, well. 2 of the unique pieces from him dropped. I already have them, though, so... Oh, well. So, yeah. Yrel becomes a villain. This is something that's kind of funny about this. Durotan, my man. Love ya. Give you a / hug. Love Durotan. Grom / spit. You did not get redeemed. You didn't deserve that moment there where he's like, Draenor is free! Why are we not arresting him or killing him or something? This guy was just evil throughout. Come on. All of a sudden he's redeemed? No. No, 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 no. And remember, and just to reiterate this one more time, Yrel becomes a villain. That's why we had to run... You know, get the Mag'har Orcs out of here, alternate Draenor, before she overran the place. And basically closed off the area, you know, the portal or the connection to alternate Draenor so that she could not follow us. Because I'd hate to think that she's actually going to find a way to follow us to Azeroth and try to force all of us to become, you know, unwilling servants of the light and the Naru. Since that's what she basically does here. So just to re-show this, you can go take these portals. This is the portal that actually allows you to choose where you want to go. Do you want to go to the Antechamber, to the Upper Citadel, to the Destructor's Rise, or to the Black Gate? So that was Hellfire Citadel, the finale of Warlords of Draenor. Yeah. Not up to par with Blackrock Foundry. Blackrock Foundry, to me, is still a better raid. I do recommend doing runs through them, though, because there's some cool stuff to get. There are mounts. There are really cool looking sets to get for certain classes, especially in Blackrock, and some pieces you can get in High Mall, so lots of cool transmog stuff to get. So this is also effectively going to be the temporary ending to this series of videos, as I am not in a position to be able to actually solo Legion raids. At least people say it's possible to solo Legion raids, but let's just say I'm not putting a lot of fruit into that basket just yet. I would feel much more comfortable soloing Legion raids after Shadowlands comes out, for 2 reasons. One, we'll be able to level up more and get better gear, and be essentially 10 more levels higher, at least based on the current way it works. We'd be, 10 levels higher than we would have been for the Legion content. Also, they're going to hopefully apply the legacy loot rules to Legion raids. You notice I was getting like 5 or 6 pieces of loot to drop. That's because of the legacy loot rules, where it drops the loot not dependent on how many people that you have in your group. So in Legion raids, it doesn't do that. It drops it based on how many people are in your group. So if only a few people are in the group, it drops like 1 or 2 pieces of loot. Whereas here in Warlords raids, it has the legacy loot rules, which drops tons of loot. So where it'll drop all that stuff regardless of how many actual people are in your group. That's why it's not a bad idea to solo these, because you still get loot regardless of how many people are in your group. So anyways, once that gets applied to Legion raids and I'm able to be in a position to figure it out and be higher and such and be able to see how we can do in terms of soloing Legion raids by then, I will gladly want to show you guys the Legion raids and soloing them. I've already shown them to you in the story, my main playthrough, as part of that, but I love the Legion raids, and I would love to be able to show them to you solo-wise. Love to show you some of the trailers that were attached to them that led into those raids as part of the thematic feel. Like the announcement trailer for Legion is one of my favorite trailers they've ever done, where Khadgar is, giving us the warning that they are coming. They're here. They've returned. Be able to show you guys how the Nightmare works with Malfurion and all that stuff. The Trial of Valor and the Nighthold. I love the Nighthold. Tomb of Sargeras is also pretty great, and Taurus as well. So, but that's going to be until farther into the future. So for now, this will be the temporary ending for this series. So for those of you who have been watching this series, I thank you very much. I hope you've been enjoying. There are some of you that have told me you love this series, and I really appreciate that. If you want to check out my soloing dungeons series, I'll be doing plenty on that, since there's many more dungeons to be able to do videos on than raids are in this game. So I will see you guys then.